Okay, welcome everybody. This is BitDevs Radio Hour number 7. We're broadcasting live from ATL BitLab on Thursday, January 15th, 2026. I'm Stephen DeLorme.
I am Alex Lewin.
Man, we're late. We're like almost a half hour late here.
Yeah, and 2 weeks late too.
Yeah, we took some time off for the holidays and took our sweet time getting back into the groove of the new year. And then, what's our platform?
Riverside?
Riverside. Yeah. The Riverside decided to take its sweet time with its Twitter integration. I feel like that thing breaks every time we do a stream.
Yeah, hashtag not a sponsor.
Yeah, I know you're here to listen to us talk about Bitcoin technical topics, but I just had to get that Riverside stuff off my chest. We'll probably be switching to Restream or something like that. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So what's good?
All is well. Yeah, and if anybody in the audience has experience broadcasting using these easy SaaS platforms and wants to tell us how to do our jobs better and suggest to us tools to use, we're all ears. So tell us how to make a successful stream, please.
Yeah, send us a boost on Fountain.fm and give us your AV tips.
Yeah. But Stephen, how are you today?
Yeah, doing good. Doing good.
Yeah, we got a lot of topics, a lot to catch up on in the first 2 weeks of 2026.
Yeah, it's fucking cold in Atlanta today, so I'd rather be in this warm hacker space talking about technical topics than being out in the wind.
Yeah, and we do have a technical one today. Lots of exciting stuff going on.
Where should we start?
How about let's start with BIP-3.
Yeah, I think you're okay, cool. It's showing on the screen now. Okay, yeah, BIP-3 deployed, Merch says.
Crazy. Yeah, BIP-3 has been deployed. We have a new BIP process. So, Stephen, remind us what BIP-3 is.
Yeah, we talked about this, I don't know, maybe last show or maybe the one before that. BIP-3 is kind of the major overhaul to the editorial process, or like the process of getting a Bitcoin improvement proposal edited, all that kind of stuff. So sounds a little scary at first. BIP-3 has been deployed. It's not a consensus change. It's not a node change. This is just how the humans working on writing BIPs and maintaining BIPs. This just kind of outlines what that process looks like.
Yeah. I'm very excited. This is finally merged. It's finally active. We've been talking about this for 2 years. There's been lots of spicy conversations about arguing over every line in this BIP, and pulling things in and taking things out. And the fact that we've agreed upon it and we've reached consensus. It's evidence that we still can get along and come together and do hard things.
We can agree on some things in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else about BIP-3?
Not much. Yeah, I think that probably covers it because we went into more detail on a previous show. But that's how that stories ends. It got merged, everybody.
Yeah, and this was like 3 hours ago,
Yeah.
So very fresh. What's next? Maybe let's dive in the deep end. Let's talk about René Pickard's new paper. So yeah, what is this new paper? So who's René Pickard and what did he just publish?
Yeah, René Pickhardt is he's a mathematician, right? And he's done a ton of like academic research over the years in terms of like the Lightning Network and kind of modeling that from a mathematical perspective. This new paper he just dropped is A Mathematical Theory of Payment Channels. His tweet reads, "I'm extremely proud and happy after 7 years in Lightning and 2 years with OpenSats, I published A Mathematical Theory of Payment Channels." It's got one of those cool arxiv.org academic links. Also, my first solo author paper, though many people helped with great discussion and feedback. So this is a super long paper, and if you're not a mathematician, I'm not a mathematician, you're probably going to find this incredibly dense. I'll maybe read a couple of, I'll pull it up here on my screen because I know you're kind of zooming around on your screen, Alex. Give me just a moment here.
Yeah, this is super exciting. Honestly, Yeah, Rene's kind of got quiet. He's been one of the most prolific people from like a research background working on Lightning research, as an academic, and he's been diligently working, but he's been somewhat quiet publicly, and now he finally came out with what he's been working on.
Yeah. It might be worth just picking a couple of things from his abstract. And again, this is very, very deep math stuff. So I don't think I'm going to read this entire thing, but I'm going to kind of like maybe cherry pick some, uh, things that we could talk about. We introduce a geometric theory of payment channel networks that centers the polytope WG of feasible wealth distributions with liquidity states LG naturally projecting onto WG via strict circulations. A payment is feasible if and only if the post-transfer wealth remains in WG. So let's break that down a little bit. The way that I understand what he's trying to say there is, if you think about the Lightning Network, it's a payment channel network. It's a graph, basically. A lot of times when you hear people in like math or computer science talking about graphs, you're talking about like one node that has a line that connects to another node that has a line that connects to another node. And that graph models or represents some kind of piece of data, right? So if you think of like the Lightning Network, that's nodes and channels, and each channel kind of has like its own like weight or strength depending on like how much money is locked up in that channel, right? So if you think of like the Lightning Network, and all of the nodes and all the different channels, it's kind of like you can model that as a piece of geometry. And what can change, and when you have that piece of geometry, the thing that can change is you can kind of move money around within that geometry. You can say like, that if you and I have a Lightning channel together between our two nodes, there might be, say, one Bitcoin on my side of the channel. And then as I start sending payments, that slowly changes until eventually you have one Bitcoin on your side of the channel. So we've kind of changed the weight of that channel, but we're still in the same overall geometry of the Lightning Network. And, what he's talking about a lot in this paper is that there's these payments that aren't feasible because uh, it would violate the like the current geometry of the Lightning Network. It's like there might not be like, if I want to pay you, if I can't find a path to you through the geometry, that payment is not feasible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you think of that description? Was that a good way of breaking it down, or wrong, or?
Okay, I spent too much time thinking or like reading through this and learning about it because it made no sense to me at the beginning, and now I think I have the gist of it. I think everything you said was correct. But let me try to visualize, paint what it actually means when he says like geometric.
Mhm.
Okay, so typically when people talk about the Lightning Network, when researchers talk about it, they talk about it in terms of graph theory problems.
Mhm.
Of like, if you're talking about if a payment can be successful, you're trying to determine if a path exists from this node to this node, and use graph theory for that. So what the hell does it mean to do a geometric modeling of the network? Well, it's interesting. First, in order to understand this, let's start with a model of where the entire network is just one channel. So
Mhm.
we have a channel between B and U. So how would this work geometrically?
Sounds like it's just a line.
Exactly. So you have a one-dimensional line segment, actually. So it's a line segment.
Okay, because lines in fourth grade math, they taught us lines go on forever.
But this is important for later. So
Okay.
it's a line segment in a one-dimensional plane that represents the channel. Now we define a point on the line to be the state of the network,
Hmm.
which kind of makes sense. So you have a line, the money can go all the way to my side or all the way to your side. We represent that by moving the point on the line um, closer to your side or closer to my side.
Okay.
So that's with a single channel. Now, if you add, and the important intuition is that positions where the point is touching the line, those are possible network states. If you move the line beyond or if you move the point beyond the line segment, it's no longer a possible network state,
Hmm.
which makes sense. Like you can't send more liquidity to my side than you have in your channel
Yeah.
on my side, and which would be represented as the point moving off of the page. Okay, how would this work with two channels?
You'd have two line segments.
You would have a plane, so you have two dimensions,
Hmm.
and you have a polygon in the plane.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of it like a square. Now, our point on the plane still represents the overall network state.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we define places where you define everywhere inside of the square, everywhere inside the polygon as valid network states, which makes sense because you're moving in two directions across two channels.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere that's outside of the polygon, you define as an invalid or impossible state.
Mm-hmm.
This is a useful framing because now we can define legal network states as just like the area or the volume of these like shapes.
Hmm.
So anything inside of the shape is a valid network state. Anything outside of the shape is an invalid network state.
But if you add 3, 4, or 5 channels, you're talking many different dimensions.
Exactly. So with 3 channels, it still kind of makes sense. You can imagine it being like a cube.
Mm-hmm.
But with 4 channels, you're talking about now hyperdimensional space.
So
So yeah,
it's a tesseract. It's a hypercube.
exactly. And with the Lightning Network, it's m-dimensional space, where m is the number of channels in the network.
Mm.
That's what's required to describe the network state with a single point,
Mm-hmm.
which is super interesting. So this is kind of mind blowing. Like the fact that you can do this to Lightning and like you can apply these kind of like outside the box thinking. And the reason why it's interesting, like academically or useful academically, is you can describe a payment as adding a single vector to the point. With one channel, you represent a payment as just
Mm.
adding a vector that's just the size of the payment. So like you just move the point by adding a vector to it. With 2 dimensions, with whatever, with n dimensions, you're just representing every payment with adding some vector in n-dimensional space.
Hmm.
Which then he does a bunch of math with these like building blocks. Now the task with Lightning is you can think of the task of Lightning, of making Lightning better, as just growing this shape, growing the area, growing the volume of this hyperdimensional space. And he talks about this a lot, of the different things you can do to increase the area of possible states you can reach.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. I wasn't even kind of visualizing it that way in my head. I think this kind of created a mathematical, formal proof for something that I mean, at least in my way of looking at it, was kind of intuitively true to me. Though I don't know if I could have like, I certainly couldn't have formally proven it, but like, it's kind of like, there are just some payments that are infeasible. And like the intuition that a lot of people have when they talk about Lightning is that like, when you have payments that are failing, that the solution is better pathfinding or better liquidity management, and that for some states of the network graph, there's just payments that are infeasible. And so like what this, I mean, an intuitive example of this is just like, let's just say you have this wonderful, beautifully connected Lightning network, and then somebody decides, some OG is like, I'm going to open a Lightning channel to my peer that is like I don't know, 100 Bitcoin channel, or just something just like insanely weird like that. And it's just like, okay, you have now the largest channel in the network. Like, I don't know what the largest channel in the network is, but let's say it's like it's 200 Bitcoin, it's something like that. It's like, you can't just send a 200 Bitcoin Lightning payment now just because you have a 200 Bitcoin channel. It's not about finding, it's like it's an infeasible within that current construction of the network. But this is like, obviously the example I did there, I cherry picked. It's very easy to reason about, like, okay, well, that channel is just insanely large, the payment is just too large. But I think the finer point here would be that there could exist many types of payments that might not seem intuitively infeasible, but they might fall outside of the realm, the geometry of feasible payments.
Yeah, exactly. Like the intuition that he's trying to cure, or like just the wrong intuition that he's trying to fix, is that like when you first get started with Lightning and you're managing your channels, if your payment fails, the problem is probably how you're managing your liquidity. And maybe you need to do a circular rebalance or something to manage your liquidity better. But he argues in the paper that actually does nothing for the network, from the network's perspective. You're just moving liquidity around. It doesn't change the space of plausible network states that you're not actually there are, in other words, like Lightning's limitations for liquidity with the two-party channel design are not bugs. They're not avoidable by better channel management. You actually can't reach some states without on-chain transactions.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up, that you can't the geometry of the Lightning Network is bound by like needing more on-chain updates. If you want to change the overall geometry of the Lightning Network, on-chain transactions are needed. And he actually has this remark in the abstract here. Look, I'm not a math major, so some of these symbols I don't know, but basically, if you have the on-chain settlement bandwidth and the expected fraction of infeasible payments, then the sustainable off-chain bandwidth satisfies. He's basically trying to say that there is a relationship between like the feasibility of a payment and the amount of on-chain bandwidth that you have available.
Yeah, this part makes sense to me. It's the throughput of on-chain payments is equal to the throughput of the throughput of off-chain payments is equal to the throughput of on-chain payments divided by the probability that you must use an off-chain payment. An on-chain payment.
Sorry, that P is the expected fraction of infeasible payments.
Yeah, rho is the probability, basically the probability that you cannot make an off-chain payment.
Yeah.
So like it's the probability that you need to go on-chain. That's getting divided by the throughput on-chain. So, which makes sense.
And I think another thing worth going into in the abstract is like he also demonstrates in the paper the idea that like fee incentives will naturally over time, fee incentives will naturally deplete channels to the point where on-chain activity is required. And he calls this, I think, depletion. And so the theory, he says, the theory suggests three mitigation levers: symmetric fees per direction, simple but likely unpopular; convex tiered fees, local flow control but at odds with source routing; and coordinated replenishment, choose an optimal circulation within a fiber that is closest to the wishes of the participants. So like symmetric fees, as if I understand correctly, would be like you have a Lightning channel and the fees are the same for both sides of the channel. It's not necessarily like my channel partner has 1,000 sats or 1,000 ppm and I have 2,000 ppm. It would be like equal on both sides.
Yeah, inbound fees must match outbound fees everywhere.
Yes. Convex tiered fees, I'm assuming that would be something to the effect of like you have fees, like fee ranges that depend on where you're routing to or who it's coming from or something like that, which could be complicated or problematic. And coordinated replenishment, I actually don't know if I understand that one fully, but
yeah, like if everybody cooperates to manage liquidity together, basically, like you don't have individuals that are rebalancing on their own, that you have everybody deciding to move money around together to keep the network stable.
I see. So yeah, that would require an almost hive mind level of coordination among the nodes of the Lightning Network,
which just doesn't. It's just not realistic, given that all
Yes.
these Lightning nodes are individual actors.
Yes, it's like mathematically feasible, but it's like not going to work in gritty meat space.
Yeah. So yeah, he continues and he comes to the conclusion that the only way to really make Lightning scale to like Visa levels is for on-chain intervention and more efficient channel constructions. The two-party channel construction with Bitcoin's on-chain throughput limitations will not scale. Basically, he argues, not custodially. And we need to use either multi-party channels or these shared or like coin pools or channel factory implementations. So that's his conclusion. Is it's not a bug of the network. It's a guarantee, and it is it's not a nice to have. It's necessary for scaling.
Well, I want to push back on that a little bit. Maybe I should just, I have questions.
Sure.
Maybe we should message Renee and leave a comment in the thread and get his feedback on this after. So I mean I think I agree with him. First of all, I'm not like mathematically capable of arguing with his proof, so I take all of this as truth. Um, I think channel factories would be a great idea, or in any kind of new channel construction that makes us more efficient than the like two-party construction we have right now, um, is certainly great. Anything that uses on-chain space better is certainly great. So I'm not arguing against any of that. I guess just in the way that I think about this, in terms of like the practical reality of where we're at right now, is that at this current time in January 2026, I don't feel like we've hit some sort of ceiling with Lightning yet. If anything, it's underutilized, I think. Like it's not some situation where it's just like blocks are full of nothing but Lightning channel opens and Lightning channel closes. Like there's a ton of room to grow and a ton of capacity for Lightning on layer 1, I think, to grow in the foreseeable future. The next kind of point I would make there, and this is where we're getting into a little more theoretical space, is like so we have this like formal definition now of, okay, this is the geometry that represents feasible payments, and anything that falls outside of that geometry is an infeasible payment. What I would be curious about is, for payment, like possible payments that one could make that might fall out into that, you know, uncharted territory of infeasible payments. How much of those are payments we're actually going to want to do?
He talks about this,
Yeah.
and yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but he's like something. He narrows all the possible network states to all of the possible desirable network states, and says that like 50%. I think if I remember correctly, it's like 50% of the desirable network states are impossible with the current network architecture.
How does he define desirable?
I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
Then I might need to read that in a little bit more detail. And oh yes, desirable. If I can spell the word desirable. Well, okay. You see, I think the way is using desirable, I'm skipping through the paper now, is a little bit different than what I'm talking about. Like what I mean is like, um, take for example, like my situation earlier, my very crude example where you have this person with a 200 Bitcoin channel, right? And they want, and it's an invalid, like there's no, if they have the largest channel in the network, there's no possible way for them to send a 200 Bitcoin payment. There's no like path of liquidity that would really satisfy what they're trying to do, given that the amount they're trying to send is larger than all other channels on the network, right? But so it falls into the realm of infeasible payments. But then I think about, like, would the person want to do that? Like, like is there really some person that they want to send that on the network that they just really are dying to send 200 Bitcoin to? Like, how many times a day does somebody be like, you know what, I want to send 200 Bitcoin to somebody? Oh, well, actually, it might happen a lot in the mempool, but pick a really, ginormously large number. My point being is that, like, when you think about, like, people sending each other zaps or people buying cups of coffee or whatever you're doing with the Lightning Network, and the kind of like average, size of payments going through there, um, versus the kinds of things that you see in like large, you know, like crypto exchange, UTXO consolidation transactions. Like, they're just like a different different kinds of transactions. And so I guess that's what I'm wondering is like, yes, we have all these kinds of payments that are infeasible, but like, do we know if these are payments that people are actually trying to make?
Yeah, okay. I think I found the paragraph that I'm not going to be able to understand the math, but this is at least addressing it. It's before exploring how payment channel networks impose additional constraints on the the polytope, that's just the shape, the higher dimensional shape, of feasible wealth distributions. We will briefly examine the on-chain situation. So, yeah, he builds up to it, but he's building up to this, to the constraints on feasible wealth distributions. And that's, I think, effectively addressing what you're talking about is narrowing the number of possible network states to only those that are desirable or like realistic to expect that people are going to want to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm struggling to wrap my head around, maybe I'll go back and I'll read that section later. I won't belabor the point, but I'm really struggling to wrap my head around how you form a mathematical definition for like something that's kind of up to like the whims of people and like who they feel like paying that day. Um, but I will read that section in depth
Yeah,
instead of belaboring the point here. That's kind of where my mind is at, what I'm wondering right now.
that's a good question. Yeah, no, and to address your first point, the problems that he's talking about solving are not yet faced today. Like we have a lot of growth to do before we start hitting the on-chain bottleneck of moving liquidity around on Lightning. So, this is all future stuff. Cool.
Actually, should we maybe briefly hit on the other paper René posted, or the delving post?
Sure.
We've been spending a long time on this math thing, so we might want to get onto something lighter. But there was also a paper that René posted to Delving Bitcoin in December. ARC as a channel factory, compressed liquidity management for improved payment feasibility, and I think like it might just be worth briefly summarizing what he's talking about here. He references in this post that like, hey, I've been working on this paper about the structural limits and how there are actual like provable, like mathematically provable limits on payment feasibility. And he goes forth to talk about ARC as the ARC protocol as being a solution for this, for actually building channel factories. And this is kind of interesting because, I think when, the ARC protocol was kind of first pitched like 4 years ago or whatever, I think some people saw it as like, oh, is this an alternative to Lightning? Is this better to Lightning? And then now that we actually have two ARC implementations, the like Arcade Labs version and the Bark version, the second team's version, I think that, a lot of people are starting to think of it like, well, no, it's kind of more like this last mile solution. Like, you have ARC service providers. The Lightning Network helps, get payments between all the ARC service providers and make them interoperable with all these other different things like Cashew and Fediment and Spark and this, that, and the other. But it's really like the end user's wallet would be an ARC wallet, and that would be like the last mile solution. And René is like, no, even that is not the greatest use of liquidity in on-chain space. What we should really be doing is we should just be building channel factories inside of like ARC service providers, inside of ARC rounds. And instead of having an on-chain Bitcoin transaction that represents your Lightning channel, so instead of having a UTXO on the Bitcoin blockchain, you have a VTXO, a virtual transaction output on the ARC that is your channel. And then I assume that could be closed out on chain unilaterally if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, can you remind me like what just fundamentally like what the original channel factory thing is?
I mean, my understanding of channel factories was just like having a more efficient way to be able to create lots of lots of channels for many users with like a single UTXO. So we're kind of like limited right now that it's like one channel means one UTXO. Any new channel that you create has to be represented by like a new UTXO. And so that creates like kind of like a fundamental cap on like number of channels just based on like how many UTXOs, like, just how many, transactions how much space you can fit into a Bitcoin block. So the channel factory idea is like, yeah, I can have a UTXO, but what if I could have like more than one channel?
Gotcha. So like channel factories was only just about Lightning, people sharing UTXOs for the purpose of having multiple Lightning channels in one UTXO. And then Arc comes along as this other protocol, initially just suggested for payments, but it's also related to sharing UTXOs. So like the René's contribution to this is connecting to the two ideas, the two UTXO sharing ideas, and saying we're going to use the Arc UTXO sharing protocol for bundling up many Lightning channels inside of a single UTXO.
Yeah. I think he makes a comment in there, something to the effect of like, I'm reframing the discussion on Arc so we think about it not as an end user protocol, but as like an infrastructure protocol
Mm.
almost, which was interesting.
Yeah, but he's suggesting that at the end of the day, the users should be having Lightning channels, and rather than having raw VTXOs and swapping in and out of Lightning on every payment.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like I mean it's an interesting way of thinking about it because they're kind of using both protocols at the same time. It's just that like they're still routing payments over the Lightning network, but um, the channels aren't represented by UTXOs; they're represented by VTXOs, and so I do think that if I'm wrapping my head around this right, you would need to like kind of broadcast, some state updates to like the ARC service provider, um, when you need to, you know, I don't know, settle a channel or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's you would have to tell the Arc service provider, basically whenever you're doing like an on-chain operation for Lightning.
Yeah,
Like you could still do all the off-chain stuff without talking to the ASP,
yeah,
but anything like splicing or changing your channel balance or closing your channel, opening a new channel, you
yeah,
need to go through the ASP as you would be going through the blockchain without
yeah.
Arc.
I mean, it is a pretty interesting idea, I think, if you could have all of that happening. I think I will go ahead and say, I mean, I like the idea a lot. I think it's really cool and like worth looking at. But oh, right there you go. Um, so I thought this remark was interesting. Failure assumptions change in detail, but not in kind. Operators require periodic engagement rather than continuous supervision. Um, and like if we can break that down a little bit, it's um, like with lightning nodes there's this idea that you need to be kind of constantly supervising it. It needs to be online all the time. It needs to be supervising the blockchain, and the mempool, make sure your channel partners not up to no good and broadcasting something fishy. um, Whereas he's saying like, okay, but like with the arc rounds, it's like it doesn't require you like supervising all the time, but you do need to engage periodically and like get your VTXOs refreshed, or they'll expire. And I wanted to point out that I actually still, in my opinion, think that that's an issue like with Arc right now, and I think it's a technically solvable issue, but I don't see it as like some like easy light thing. Like if you're talking about like people could lose their money if they don't come back online. Like with Lightning, if you're not going to lose your money if you go offline. It's just like you might miss you might miss out on if somebody does try to do something malicious, you might miss that and fail to catch it in time. But like with Arc, it's like more of a guarantee that like no, you will like lose funds if you don't come back online. So the periodic engagement actually becomes much more critical in my mind. And for getting those refreshes to happen under the current model, there is a ton of interactivity requirements, um, which I think kind of surpass the current interactivity requirements of Lightning nodes in my mind.
Yeah,
So
I think the consensus in like the Arc world is that this is an irrefutable truth about the limitation of Arc. It's like the current construction without covenants is you need to come online every single round in order to it's a sign with all of the other users, and it's more complicated than just signing and going back offline because you have to sign at the same time that everybody else signs, and if one person doesn't sign, you have to re-sign everything. It's like not a good. It's yeah. It's a big trade off that is not going to work at scale in practice. Like I don't think anybody believes the contrary, but there's like really two solutions to fix this, like to make ARC plausible and to fix this problem you're talking about. Is one of them is to make it less non-custodial, basically, like you delegate signing to a federation, or you do state chains, or something like that,
Yeah.
or we change Bitcoin to get covenants.
Yeah.
Those are the only two things that will fix this.
Yeah, and the whole like idea of like, federated kind of signing for the ARC stuff, I'm just like, well, why don't we just use Fediments?
Great point.
But the covenants, again, I'm not like against ARC or anything. I think it's really cool, and I personally, I would love to see a much more like complete version of ARC, and that would require covenants, and some of the best things require consensus changes, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. What's your current over-under on when we'll get covenants? How many months or years will it take on average?
That's above my pay grade.
My number is 30 years.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic.
All right, we've been going deep into lightning math for a little bit. What do you think? Anything else we should say on this, or should we jump to some other stuff?
Yeah, this is super cool. I wish Bitcoin got more attention from academics. I'm very thankful for people like René. Yeah, when I was first getting into Bitcoin, René was a big, yeah, he was definitely like I looked up to him a lot. I still do, but I remember one of the first things I found fascinating about Lightning was his work on Pickhardt payments or multipath payments, and it's cool to see him still in the space. I wish there was more people like him.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, let's talk about something less technical.
You want to hit that Buck thing?
Yeah, let's talk about Buck.
Yeah, I keep hearing people tell me about Buck, and I still don't think I fully understand what Buck is.
Okay, so let's pull up Buck. Buck, the Bitcoin dollar, 7% rewards the first savings coin. Okay, this kind of sounds like a stable coin, I guess, but it just seems like something different, maybe.
Sounds to me like a character from Kill Bill, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, not for U.S. persons, so it's not exactly borderless. But so what is this Buck token? Well, in order to talk about the Buck token, we first need to talk about MicroStrategy. If you've been following Bitcoin, you've probably heard of this company called MicroStrategy, and they have turned a public company into a tradable set of stocks that is effectively like investing in a fund, like a hedge fund or an equity fund or something like that. And because they have a public company, they can sell their financial instruments on the public markets, and this has made their stock much more valuable than it was in the past. They've launched a bunch of different kinds of stocks and debt instruments. And this is their newest. So if you're curious with the different products, this one is just below Strife, which is a credit product. This is a preferred stock instrument that acts like a fixed income instrument. So what that means is it's supposed to pay you a reliable payout for holding this asset, like a bond. It's not a bond. It's not debt. Like a bond guarantees a payout. This does not guarantee you a payout. It's an equity that strives, it desires to pay people, targets an 11% yield, which is bananas. It currently pays 11% annual dividends, but there is no guarantee. It tries to hover around $100. So people are really excited about this. They're the bulls of Stretch and MicroStrategy, or just strategy now, is that they argue that these products are attractive to the typical buyers of fixed income instruments. Like the typical people that buy, call it trillions of dollars in bonds, would find these kinds of products interesting. And then MicroStrategy, when they sell these trillions of dollars of these instruments to the buyers, they will use the money to buy Bitcoin, and which will cause supply shock in Bitcoin, which will cause the price of Bitcoin to go up, which will allow them to pay these 11% dividends, and it'll be like a never-ending cycle. So yeah, this is interesting. One downside of Stretch in these products is that you can only buy them in the US. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it all makes sense so far.
Yeah, I mean, so these are like these are like they're not the MicroStrategy stock. These are other assets that strategy is creating.
Correct. They're still equities. They're called preferred stocks, or preferred equities. Um, they don't represent shares of the company. They are a stock with nothing backing it except a policy at the company that says that they'll pay you a dividend.
I see.
You can kind of think of this as like a token of sorts.
Are there examples of these kinds of financial products outside of MicroStrategy? Like, is this common in the TradFi world?
It's not famous. Arguably, these preferred stock instruments are the most famous preferred stock has ever gotten, like the
Sure.
most amount of fame. They do exist. It's an existing instrument. They're using it in a way that's never been used before.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the legitimate reasons are for selling preferred stock. Yeah, just corporate finance is complicated. This is tools of financial engineers.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, these tools exist. They're using them for something else.
Okay. So MicroStrategy made all these preferred equity, preferred stock things, and Stretch is the one we're talking about. STRC.
Yeah. So, and the big downside again is that you can only buy these in the US. Well, introducing Travis Vander Zanden. He is most notably known for founding a company called Bird, the scooter company.
Hmm.
So the guy who made the scooter company has also started this company called Buck. Buck offers a financial product in the form of a token that doesn't promise it, targets a 7% return on um, on your tokens. And the language that they use is very similar to MicroStrategy's, except that MicroStrategy is 11%, Buck is 7% target. And well, how does this work? Well, the Buck token is an Ethereum ERC20 token that represents a governance token for a DAO. The DAO had an ICO and sold this Buck token and then used the proceeds to buy Stretch.
Hmm.
And then the DAO has a policy of targeting to give out 7% of the 11% yield back to the holders of the DAO token.
I see. And yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, so basically they create this instrument, the ability to get similar exposure to what you would have gotten by purchasing MicroStrategy, but they've opened it up for the rest of the world, not in the US. And I think one thing that's notable is that it's not allowed in the US.
Huh.
Why wouldn't a token like this be allowed in the US, Stephen?
I mean, we don't have regulatory clarity on tokens. I mean, it sounds like a security.
Yeah, I think that we actually would have much more clarity on things like this. Um, this would this would be tantamount to not securities fraud, but it's you'd have major unregistered security issues. You'd get nailed by the SEC if you try to do this in the US. So they don't do that. They have a Cayman Islands company that's unregulated, and they launch this token, and they market it as a savings coin. What do you think? What was your first impressions of this kind of Buck token?
I mean, it seems pretty sketch.
Yeah, it seems sketch. What about it sketch?
I don't know. I mean, I'm biased because I just kind of, any kind of crypto token, I'm like any kind of crypto token or crypto service that like advertises yield is kind of sets off the alarm bells for me. It's just like anytime you're promising yield is always like a little bit sketch, and the higher the yield is, the more that it's going to set off the alarm bells for me. If you have a bank account and it's like a 0.5% interest rate, it's like, okay, that's not that much. It seems pretty good. The more percentage points you add on, the more it seems too good to be true. The other thing about it is just setting aside my general mistrust of initial coin offerings and DAOs and crypto projects where we don't really have any legal ramifications if you get, mistreated or scammed. Um, Setting aside all of that mistrust and like, let's just assume that like every actor in this is totally honest. Buck, the people could have every intention of giving you 7% back on your buck dollar or whatever, based on MicroStrategy rewards. But the agreement doesn't say they like have to; it just says that they aim to. They will try to, and them being able to depends on if MicroStrategy is able to pay them, like if they're able to get 11% back on their stretch, and so look, I'm not some financial engineer or anything here, but it just seems like if the market conditions don't go exactly the way MicroStrategy wants them to, then Stretch doesn't pay out, then Buck doesn't pay out, and
Yeah. I think what you're hinting at is the layers of counterparty risk that are involved in this product.
yeah,
Like, this is what people talk about with MicroStrategy is that like you're getting exposure to Bitcoin. You're basically getting exposure to Bitcoin, and you're getting exposure to Bitcoin's upside through this other vehicle. Maybe the bears against MicroStrategy, the people that criticize MicroStrategy or the products will say like it's not the same thing. Like there's plenty of counterparty risk. These instruments don't guarantee payouts. Well, that's true. So yeah, with MicroStrategy, if you just buy straight up MicroStrategy, you're trusting that like both Bitcoin is going to continue going up, but also the MicroStrategy's market is going to stay liquid and it's not going to be mismanaged. Here, you're adding another layer on top. So you first have Bitcoin at the center. MicroStrategy buys Bitcoin, sells equity. Then they created a preferred stock on top of that that captures the value of their initial equity. You're trusting that this market has to stay liquid and everything, and that it's managed properly. Then you're creating a Cayman Islands company that spun up a DAO and launched an ERC20 token that needs to buy this preferred equity. And then they issue a DAO token that's supposed to give you redeemability of the treasury managed by the DAO. Like there's so much counterparty risk baked into this, and for all of this counterparty risk, you're getting charged a 4% fee. It's actually not even, somebody corrected me, it's 4% of 11%. So you're getting charged a 30% fee.
wow,
Yeah. I think it's wild that Bitcoiners are acting like this is an extension of Bitcoin. Like people that, it baffles me that this doesn't immediately raise the alarm bells of everybody thinking that this is just another, get rich like DAO scheme with like tokenomics.
I mean, you hear Bitcoiners saying this, like, I mean, this could very easily turn into he said, she said, yeah, he said, she said, but I mean, like who is saying this? Like, I mean, is this just like people you observe talking about this that you wouldn't ordinarily have expected to, or
Specifically the comment section of the Buck announcement tweet? I was shocked to see some of the supporters.
yeah,
Yeah, we don't have to dox people,
yeah,
but
we don't. So okay, yeah, well, I think I'm good. But I guess people can do those kinds of things with Bitcoin if they want to.
yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that like the DAO world is basically dead. Like DAO tokens, there are no noteworthy DAO projects still that exist. Yeah, like DAO tokens was like a 2019 thing, and they've completely gone away. And this is the first new DAO announcement that I've seen in a long time.
I remember a lot of them popping up in like 2019, 2021, or sorry, 2020, 2021. I feel like after COVID, they really went on a tear there.
Yeah.
When Bitcoin was going on its run, and especially with the NFT craze and all of that.
Yeah. Cool. So anywho, buy Buck. Is the moral of the story.
No, don't buy Buck.
All right. Where do you want to move to next?
What else is on the agenda?
So we can talk about this opcc consolidation opcode proposal. We can talk about BitVM4. We can talk about the BIP-30 or Bitcoin V30 wallet bug. We can talk about BitChat.
Well, why don't we talk about something a little technical, and then we should probably get to BitChat before we wrap up.
Cool. Maybe let's talk about BitVM4.
Yeah. No, you might need to educate me on this. You see, I mean, what I learned at Bitcoin plus plus uh, Istanbul was that you know several like organizations had implemented BitVM2 and had gone through, the rigorous process of like getting the code like security hardened and all that. Then they came up with, there was the idea, I think, from Robin Linus for BitVM3 based on the like Jeremy Rubin's garbled circuits suggestion. And then everyone was like, wow, this is like obviously better. And now we gotta, make BitVM3. So you're telling me there's another one now?
Yeah, so it's a bit like call it sacrilegious to call all of these things BitVM. Like it's departed significantly from the original BitVM thing, but you can accomplish this similar kinds of goals with them. So yes, you're correct. BitVM 1 was announced. The idea was to put it was a way to represent arbitrary computation inside a Bitcoin script where every gate was basically a Bitcoin transaction. BitVM 2 said, oh, we shouldn't put all of the computation on chain. We should put a single computation on chain. We should put a verification of a peg in and peg out into a side system and just verify that on chain. So it was a single start or it was a single like proof verification on chain, and then everything else was off chain. BitVM 3 said you don't actually have to verify the proof. You can use this thing called garbled circuits, and if somebody verifies or if somebody finds a fraudulent proof off chain, they can leak a secret on chain. Sorry, they can leak a secret off chain and then use that to slash funds. So you can accomplish the same thing without doing any computation on chain, which is when BitVM kind of ceases to exist. Now BitVM 4 does the same thing as BitVM 3, except in a way that they're arguing is 1,000x more efficient. So very exciting. I think this 1,000x efficiency is less exciting than the last 1,000x efficiency. Oh yeah, and then one thing noteworthy is when BitVM 3 came out, they said this is a 1,000x more efficient way to do the same thing BitVM 2 did. And then they're saying again that this is a 1,000x improvement on what BitVM 3 did. So we're now a million x better than BitVM 2, which was like what, a year and a half ago.
It's moving fast.
It's moving fast. Massive hats off to Liam. He's been instrumental in all of this work. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. The gist, it sounds really exciting. I was reading the paper a little bit and then asking Claude about the paper quite a bit. This doesn't really, my understanding, it doesn't change much in terms of what you can do with the protocol. You still have the same architecture as BitVM 3 with operators and verifiers. You basically have a centralized, call it federation, where one of the federation members has to be honest to slash operator funds. So you have a one of n assumption. That doesn't change. The only thing that does change is that setting up the system is now very, very cheap. You can do it on, anybody can do this. It's no longer a prohibitory thing. You don't have to send terabytes of data. You only have to send megabytes of data. Yeah, these things are now, can be spun up by anybody. So, but no, this does not allow you to do anything meaningful, in my opinion, significantly or in a noteworthy way, like different than what you could with BitVM 3. It's just more efficient. So,
oh, that's good. Yeah. So same features, just more efficient.
Yep. Just a bit cheaper. All right. Anything else about BitVM?
No, not really. BitVM is interesting, but I'm kind of, waiting to see what projects come out of it.
Cool. What do you want to see next? Bitcoin Core or BitChat?
Why don't we hit the Bitcoin Core thing real quick?
Yeah. All right. Wallet migration failure may delete unrelated wallet files in Bitcoin Core 30.0 and 30.1. Oh no, Bitcoin 30? This is the one that everybody's been scaring me about. Now I can delete my money? Steven.
Why are you holding your money in a Bitcoin Core wallet?
Well, I'm not. So first, what are they talking about with
Yeah.
deleted wallets and deleted money?
Yeah, I mean the basic idea with this was that look, there was this, situation where if it's trying to migrate a wallet.dat file and that fails, it could accidentally delete those files and then you end up losing your funds. So, I mean, it's a bug. Uh it's not great. Bugs happen. It was patched within a matter of days and now there's V30.2.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it's like it's definitely like it's scary, but it's also like um there you need to have a backup for a wallet. Like anything could happen. Like it obviously caused a lot of drama on the internet because it's Bitcoin Core and it's Bitcoin Core V30 and you know but you could have a bug like this and like I feel like almost any kind of wallet application or any piece of software where it accidentally deletes data. It's not good, doesn't mean it's good, but these kinds of bugs happen. So like I don't know, if you're talking about a Bitcoin wallet and a meaningful amount of money, you have to have a backup of that. You can't just be like you're not going to be sitting there. At least if you are really serious about protecting that money, you're not going to be sitting there with like a server running Bitcoin node for years on end, collecting Bitcoin to that little wallet.dat file and not have a backup of your key. Like that's reckless because setting aside the issue of like, you know, wallet, like, Bitcoin Core version bugs, um, what if the computer, has some, error while it's writing stuff to disk? What if there's a hard drive failure? What
Yeah,
if
or a
there's
power
like
outage.
yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, like error writing to disk during a power outage. What if there's like a power surge? What if your computer gets hacked or whatever? Like you have to like um I don't know, you have to have these countermeasures in place. There's all kinds of things that go wrong. So it was like it's not good. But it got patched quickly and it's the kind of thing that I feel like you need to have a recovery plan in place for anyways.
I have a question. Why does Bitcoin Core have a wallet? Most people don't. Most people use an external wallet application, like a hardware wallet or something, and then they just get data from a Bitcoin Core node. Why is there a wallet built into Bitcoin Core?
Well, I mean, when Bitcoin was first launched, uh, that was the only way to use Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin Core, as we know it today, is descended from Satoshi's original client. That was how you used Bitcoin. Is because anytime you make a Bitcoin transaction, you need to sign it, and you need to submit it to a node so the node can broadcast it on the peer-to-peer network. So that was just how you did it. Is you would download this piece of software, you would start your node, and you'd start your wallet, and you could even start mining. So I mean, it's still a feature from that's been maintained. Now, I think that this kind of leads you to this might lead you to the question of like, should it have a wallet?
Yeah, like for historical reasons, it's still there for sure, and I think that's what I've heard people say that before. Like, oh, it's only there because of historical reasons. But yeah, today, why don't we move it out of the infrastructure?
I don't know. I think I will tell you what. I've actually had some conversations with people that where I've been told that apparently there's uh, actually a lot of like businesses and stuff that still use the wallet, and
Why?
I don't know. And that I was shocked to hear it too, and I think they were too. But apparently, like there's like I don't know if these are like companies that adopted Bitcoin early or what, but apparently there's like still some people that use the wallet. I never saw it as a widely used thing, so I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I mean, we've deprecated features in the past that had greater than zero numbers of users. Why it seems completely plausible that they could say, okay, we're deprecating the Bitcoin wallet. Please migrate all funds out of this wallet in the near future because the feature will get deleted. And then 5 years after making that announcement, delete it. Um,
yeah, I don't know. I guess you could.
yeah, I mean, one other thing to note about this bug is that um, in order to hit the bug, you didn't just have to use the wallet, but you had to use a wallet that's unnamed, which had not been created in the past 5 years. So you had to have a 5-year-old unnamed wallet in order for this to hit.
So you need to have a default unnamed wallet.dat file, a wallet that you've created on this Bitcoin node for 5 years. And in order for this to be catastrophic, you would have had to go 5 years without backing up that wallet.dat file.
Correct.
Yeah.
5 years without writing down your seed words.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to think that somebody who's technical enough to upgrade, version bump their uh, Bitcoin core node is technical enough to back up their wallet.dat file, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. But even then,
I mean, some people even talked about removing the UI from Bitcoin Core too, just like let it be like a CLI tool.
seems sensible to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I'm a UI guy. I love the idea of it having a pretty UI.
Different repo. Yeah,
but
different project.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. Yeah, but still bad. Still bad that this bug was allowed to happen, but understandable and pretty small in the scheme of things.
Yep, that's why there's bug fixes.
Yep. Cool. Anything else about Bitcoin Core 30?
No, I don't think so.
Let's talk about what I think is the coolest news story in the Bitcoin extended cinematic universe in the past several months. So BitChat is a new-ish chat application, initially released by Jack Dorsey, and now also being developed by Calais, and I think they have some other people working on it. And it is unique in that you don't need internet connection in order to use the app. You can chat with other people just by sending them messages over Bluetooth. And it creates a mesh network between people. So if you have sufficient people using the app, you can send messages all across the mesh network. And yeah, so even if you don't have internet, then you can use the chat app. This is pretty cool for a variety of situations. You can imagine being at a crowded stadium or like a sports game where nobody has good reception. You can use it then. But more seriously, what people have been talking about is, what happens if the government becomes tyrannical and turns off your internet? This is an unthinkable thought in the West, but it turns out that in some other countries like Uganda, the government, and also now Iran, the government is cracking down and shutting down the internet in order to keep their citizens down. So the story is, in Uganda, amid a government-ordered nationwide internet shutdown, BitChat becomes the #1 most downloaded app in the Play Store and the App Store.
Nice.
This is the coolest thing ever. I think this is the most visceral example of freedom tech working, or really solving problems for people.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoin, I think we have a lot of aspirational goals for how it could help people. And it's definitely helping people on a small scale in a lot of different places. But I've never heard of something this ubiquitous in a place that's having a crisis.
Well, I think there's precedent for it. This is a different level of cool. I mean, for anyone who's never heard of it, I mean, the confusing thing about it being named BitChat, it has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but it's a cool name nonetheless, and it's freedom tech, so related and worthy of inclusion here. But I think the precedent for this would be like the Arab Spring and like the use of Twitter in like 2011.
I'm not familiar.
It's just it was like the similar kind of thing. It was like it was when Twitter was still relatively young as a product, as a company. And it was like this whole idea of like social media being used during protests and civil unrest to like coordinate activities was kind of, at the time, this unheard of thing. Now it seems very like, it just seems like obvious that protests and actions are coordinated through social media. But at the time, it was very, very unprecedented and was like, oh, wow, holy crap, like Twitter's doing some good in the world, just, having this ability to blast information around. So Twitter kind of started that. And like, this was also, again, when the company was a little more in its infancy. So there wasn't like the same conversation you have today about like, you know, big tech companies kind of like just censoring different posts based on political views and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the precedent would be Twitter. Funny thing is because obviously being Jack Dorsey's company, now another one of Jack Dorsey's products is going viral in
Yeah, Jack Dorsey's hit rate on changing the world in crisis is it's second to none.
yeah. So it's like it's so interesting that it comes from like the same creator. Uh, and I think it's also more meaningful too that it's like, well, Twitter was obviously like this company, and when you listen to a lot of the early people talk about what they envisioned for Twitter versus what it became, um, it's kind of you see the departure. But with BitChat, it's like it's not a company; it's just like an open protocol,
Yeah.
and so it's so cool to see like this time around it's happening with an open protocol.
Yeah, it's very cool. Like it's just a free open source software actually changing the world for the people that need it most. I think this is hilarious. Like the website is called bitchat.free and it's just a text. It's literally just ASCII. Yeah, then it explains that BitChat is a decentralized peer-to-peer messaging application that operates over Bluetooth mesh networks. No internet required, no servers, no phone numbers. And then has the two apps. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Pretty freaking cool. It's come a long way. At the beginning, BitChat, like I was first, or when did people start working on it? Like October of last year, or maybe a bit before.
Yeah.
And yeah, testing it out, like it made your phone hot. It slowed down. It was spammable. A lot of issues. And it's come a long way. Like they've implemented some incredibly sophisticated like routing for efficiency, and it's now like completely usable, and people are using it in these crisis situations. So it's incredibly inspiring.
It even surpasses the Bible in terms of downloads.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah. It's number one is BitChat. So yeah, the government shuts down, and then you got in people download BitChat so that they can keep talking to each other, and then download the Bible so they don't miss their nightly vigils.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we break?
I think we pretty much hit all our topics, right?
There's one more topic, but we don't have to touch it.
Okay. Yeah, we're running a little over here, but let's I will go ahead and say we got a boost. I'll go ahead
We got a
and read.
boost.
Yeah, we got a boost, man.
It's incredible.
Looting.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody at home. This is a live show. You can interact with us.
Yeah, this was from Nikaz 18th and December 21st, back when we were on break. Awesome show, guys. Hashtag live aloha. Sweet. Thank you for the boost. Thank you for the listen. Boost in on Fountain. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Let us know what kind of topics you would like to learn more about on BitDevs Radio Hour. What else? Anything?
Cool. Yeah. No.
About covered it.
This was fun. This was another weekly edition. Yeah, we'll be back next week. Hopefully.
Usually on Fridays. Today's a different day. We both needed to do it Thursday day, but usually Friday.
Yep. We'll be back to do another BitDevs Radio Hour.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.